Hello and welcome to Relatable Code. In this video, we're going to be talking about interfaces in Kotlin. So let's get started. Now, as usual, before diving into the concept of interfaces, I'm going to show you why we need them. Okay, so in our example, in our library example, we've already discussed open classes and abstract classes as well. Okay, in this video, we're going to be talking about the examples involving the library item abstract class. Okay, so we have an abstract class called library item. It's implemented by our book class and our magazine class as well. Okay, suppose here we have a third class called newspaper, like that, and it's going to be very similar to the book and magazine examples. So let's copy and paste that. Let's erase this. Okay, and let's just have something different here. Like this. Okay, suppose our newspaper only has a title to be displayed in display info. Now, let's say that we have some library items that can be downloaded as digital copies. Okay, but the problem here is that not all of them can be downloaded like that. So you can go into library item and have a function like this. Okay, and this is supposed to be an abstract function or an open function. Both work here in the context of an abstract class. You can't do that because in this case, download as copy will be available for our newspaper, our magazine, and our book as well, which we don't need. We only want this ability to download this library item as a copy to be available for our book and our magazine as well. Okay. In this case, you might think, well, okay, let's create an abstract class. Let's call it something like digital copy, maybe, and define a download as copy function here. Of course, it's going to be abstract. And when we have a book and a magazine, instead of extending just library item, let's extend library item and digital copy. But we can't do that. We can't do that because only one class can be a supertype. In our case, we need library item to be that supertype because we have a book, a magazine, and a newspaper that all share this display info function. Okay, but not all of them share this digital copy functionality, which is download as copy. So what can we do in this case? We can only have one superclass, whether it's an abstract class or an open class, it doesn't matter. This will also produce an error. Okay, so in this case, we need to share some behavior between two of our classes, and we want to have it outside the scope of our library item. And we can do that using an interface like this. Instead of writing open class, we write interface, and we don't want an abstract function here, we just want this function. Okay, so the interface is similar to the abstract class in one context, that the functions defined inside the interface shouldn't have an implementation by default. Okay, they can have something like an optional implementation, and I'll show you how shortly. Okay, but the main purpose of interfaces is to just share these functions, if you want, or these behaviors between certain classes that you choose. In our case, we want it to be shared by our class book and our class magazine. Like this, we extend digital copy, and as you can see, I have to implement the function which is inside the interface digital copy, download as copy. Okay, like this. And same goes for our book. Okay, so you already know now the flexibility of using interfaces because you can only extend one superclass, but you can implement as many interfaces as you want. Okay, and this comes really in handy because we don't want to define this function inside the book and redefine it inside the magazine as well. We want to define it in one place and just basically modify it in that place. Okay. As you've seen, we had to implement this interface inside the book and the magazine classes. Well, what if I want this implementation to be optional, like the flexibility that we have with open classes? We can do that here at the end of our function. Let's open these. What the hell? Why is it not working? I think my keyboard language changed. Okay, like this. Okay, so now our function just has an empty body in this case. And now, as you can see, I no longer have an error here at the level of my magazine class because I can choose to implement or not implement my download as copy if I want. Okay, because now my download as copy has this empty function body. Okay, and this was possible because this download as copy is a void function, which means it doesn't return anything. Okay, what if it returns a string, for example? As you can see, you can't just open these empty curly braces because some default value has to be returned because this function is an optional implementation in the classes that you choose. So in this case, you need to do something like this. You basically have a default return type for this function. If you want this function to have an optional implementation inside the classes that require this function. And the reason for that is if I have, okay, yes, this needs to return a string now, like that. Okay, we still have two errors. Let's check them out. Okay, super.download as copy returns that. If I go back here, okay. If I do this, I'm on the safe side because now I have to return the super method because the super method basically returns an empty string by default. And the reason why I have to provide a default implementation if I want it to be optional inside my classes is because of this. Okay, same goes for this function. We're not going to waste a lot of time in these small details. Required a unit and we found a string. Okay, that's because it doesn't return a string because we changed the function's signature inside our interface. Okay. Now, if I have a function, or in my main method if you want, I didn't create a book, I think. No, I didn't. Let's just erase this and these and comment this out. We don't need it for this video. Let's create a book. Okay, what does it need? It needs a title, an author, and a price as well. Now, if I call book dot download as copy, I check the download as copy for this book. It doesn't override anything. We can just remove this implementation if you want because we're just returning the super method in this case. Okay, and our super method has a default implementation. Let's just have it return a string so that you can see the output here in the output window. Okay, so we have a book and we're calling download as copy. Let's run our function. Okay, this is it, and it didn't print out because we're just returning the super string. We're not printing it out actually. Okay, so let's do something here. Let's just print line something like this. That basically happened because we were just returning the string and we weren't using any print line function to print out the result of that string to our output window. Okay, let's rerun our function like this. And now, as you can see, we have download. Okay, so we can easily now remove the download as copy implementation from our book. If we rerun this function again, it will also give us download because this book implemented this interface, but it didn't provide an implementation for download as copy. We did that inside the interface for our use case here. But in most cases, you can say, you don't actually provide this default implementation for this interface. This is more common, okay? Leaving the implementation to happen inside the classes that need this interface, such as our book and our magazine as well. So now I have to implement this interface in my book and my magazine. Let's remove this and implement it like that. And now I can still call my download as copy method. But the difference is now I have to provide a implementation inside my book class. So I can write something like downloading a book. And inside my magazine, I can write print line downloading a magazine. Okay, let's run our function, which calls download as copy on our book. And here we're downloading a book. And if I have a magazine like this, and I call my download as copy method, and I rerun my function, I get downloading a magazine. Okay, that's the power of interfaces. You can share this common behavior between the classes that you choose, and you're not restricted to one interface. You can implement several interfaces, unlike open classes and abstract classes. Okay, open classes and abstract classes are more commonly used to share some identity between our classes, such as magazine and book and our newspaper. They can all be grouped under a common title, if you want, called library item, which is some sort of identity for our classes. But in this case, in my digital copy case, it wasn't shared among all three of my classes. It was only shared among my book, my magazine, and not my newspaper. Okay, which is why we had to use an interface in this case. We didn't want to have this download as copy function inside our abstract class library item because it wasn't available to all our library items. Okay, it wasn't available to our newspaper in this case. And that's basically why you need interfaces in programming. Okay? Note that you can't actually instantiate interfaces similar to abstract classes. Okay, so we have an interface called digital copy. I can't go something like var digital copy equals digital copy. Okay, because I can't instantiate interfaces and I can't instantiate abstract classes as well, such as my library item. but I can instantiate open classes, okay, such as my customer here. That's basically one of the differences between them, because interfaces are meant to be used like a contract between classes, a contract that says that these classes should share some certain behaviors, okay? If you like these type of videos, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next video.